Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about HubSpot. If you're hustling in the trenches to build a business or bootstrapping one of your own, let's talk about an AI-powered tool that can lighten up your workload a bit. HubSpot's Campaign Assistant is a game changer for creating marketing campaigns at scale. It quickly turns your key selling points into a cohesive pitch, which helps you deliver knockout emails, ads, and landing pages in minutes. So let Campaign Assistant take care of the campaigns so you can get back to growing your business. Work smarter, not harder at HubSpot.com/campaign-assistant.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Juliet Bennett Rylah here with Ben Berkley, and you're listening to the Hustle Daily Show. Today, we're talking about a big elevator, a really, really big elevator that can fit more people than a Boeing 737. But before any of that, let's talk about what else is happening in the world of business and tech. Today in AI, author Paul Tremblay, you may know him from The Cabin at the End of the World, and Mona Awad, you may know her from Bunny or 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl, are both suing OpenAI, alleging ChatGPT's very accurate summaries of their books would indicate it was trained on them without consent. Meanwhile, in pickleball, Major League Pickleball, which I didn't even know was a thing, but I guess it makes sense, announced former Citadel partner Julio DiPietro as its new CEO and ex-NFL exec Bruce Popko as COO. The pair will work to grow the popular sport at a pro level. Team valuations recently increased from about $100,000 to about $10 million. Meanwhile, over at Subway, they're switching to freshly sliced deli meat, which is kind of interesting because apparently their meat used to get sliced in a factory and then sent to the stores. But its rivals, such as Jimmy John's, Firehouse Subs, they all have a slicer, and they do it right there. Since 2016, Subway has shuttered around 7,000 locations, but its competitors have grown. Is that due to freshly sliced meat? I don't know. We'll find out. Experts predict a slump in retail sales now that the Supreme Court has nixed the Biden administration's student loan forgiveness plan. Apparel and home goods are predicted to be hit the hardest. Kentucky now requires all EV charging companies to include Tesla's plug, known as the North American Charging Standard, to qualify for federal funding via the state's Highway Electrification Program. Texas and Washington may follow suit. However, if you are not driving an EV, there's some good news for you. U.S. gas prices could drop to an average less than $3 per gallon later this summer, per analysts over at GasBuddy. And finally, over 300,000 UPS workers could strike if the company and the Teamsters Union can't negotiate a deal before their contract expires this month. Talks faltered yesterday, and shares dropped about 2.4% on the news. All right, Ben, let's talk about this big elevator.
Everyone's been waiting for it. This is what it's all about. It's the elevator time. So if there's really one thing we try to avoid here at The Hustle, we don't want to be boring. And to me, at least, the antithesis of being boring is oversized versions of things. And this is one of those situations where clearly someone had the thought, really ambitious. They said, we're going to make the world's largest passenger elevator. And then that thought just ran wild. And it wasn't just an idea that was indulged. It was brought to life and in absolutely spectacular and honestly totally needless fashion. So let me tell you about this thing.
All right.
So this elevator, we teased that it was more people than a Boeing 737. The exact number that is max capacity on this thing, 235 people at once. And this elevator is in India. I will tell you so much about this. I'm so sorry that I'm doing this. It's just so many facts about an elevator. But the thing that I would also note about this, just to start, this is 277 square feet of elevator. That is, I once lived in an apartment about that same size. Which just,
same.
That both makes me really sad and also really impressed by this elevator. So more specs, right?
Absolutely. Yes. All of them.
All right. So this elevator was unveiled last year at the Geo World Center in Mumbai. And that is a large new conference center. I guess that kind of gives you a little bit of the why of it all. You know, this is a space that legitimately needs to move large volumes of people around at any given time. So this thing was built by the Finnish vertical transport juggernaut, Kone. And I believe it's Kone, not 100% sure on that. I watched so many of their YouTube videos and they just don't really say their name very often.
Okay.
So this thing weighs 16 tons. It's supported by 18 pulleys and 9 ropes. It moves at the speed of 1.3 feet per second, which I don't think is that fast. But it seemed fast for something that, once again, I cannot belabor this enough, carries up to 235 people in one go, which is, just for context, that's way more than a full university marching band. If we're talking more size comparisons,
please.
I did the math and found the average adolescent giraffe could actually be set down on its side and it would fit inside this elevator.
It's like a real Noah's Ark, really.
Exactly. This thing, for some reason, I think one thing we do here is we find strange things in the course of our job and we indulge these strange obsessions that we find. This is one of them. I'm also trying not to lean all the way in and trying to put a giraffe into an elevator. I think maybe it would be good if you also don't try that or anyone at home tries that. Seems dangerous. But one thing I just wanted to mention, this is not the most important thing you'll hear all day. We know that. But it is an interesting engineering feat. And it also was found, we're kind of looking into the global elevator business, which is a pretty competitive space, actually.
Really?
Yeah, Kone, they're part of the Big Five. I saw it referred to in some elevator trade magazine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think next time you're in an elevator, pay attention to the manufacturer, and you're going to be shocked how many times it's one of these 5 companies.
Well, I'm shocked that there's 5 because every time I get in an elevator, it says Otis, which I pay attention to because that's my friend's son's name. And I'm like, why is every elevator Otis?
I think that, it would depend on the country that you're in.
Yeah.
But if, just broadly speaking, you've got Otis as one of them. That's definitely a big fiver right there. Obviously, Kone, we know. ThyssenKrupp is another. Schindler and Mitsubishi.
Oh.
That comprises a very large percentage of the global elevator business.
Wow. I didn't know Mitsubishi was so big into elevators.
This is one of the fun parts of our job, is going on these very strange rabbit holes. I'm wondering if perhaps while we're here, one more good fact around the company Kone. Not only are they setting records with the largest passenger elevator by volume in the world, they're also setting the record with the deepest elevator shaft in the world. Yeah, well, getting kind of scarier is that it's actually underground. Because the interesting thing about being an elevator company based in Finland is that's a country where no buildings are taller than 432 feet. So all of their research is instead done in a limestone mine underneath a town in Finland, which is really cool. So they're doing all of this testing on acceleration and speed and braking and deceleration. And they also do a 650-foot free fall test, which is pretty steep. That's 5 times the drop in Disney World's Tower of Terror. And so they're doing a lot of things in this mine, which, again, deepest elevator shaft in the world, which makes sense for a company producing the world's largest passenger elevator. Both my greatest nightmare being on either one of those things. But I do think they're cool.
Yeah. This just reminds me of that SNL skit with David S. Pumpkins, where they're supposedly at a haunted house elevator and David S. Pumpkins is on every other floor. And this would be just for your next thought experiment. How many David S. Pumpkins, assuming there's a David S. Pumpkins on every 3rd floor, would be in this elevator? You don't have to answer now. You can think about it.
I will elect to just stew on this a little while, and hopefully everyone will join us in doing that.
Yeah, if you have a theory about how many David S. Pumpkins are on this elevator, please let us know. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for tuning in to the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot podcast network. Our editor today is Ezra Trupiano, and our executive producer is Darren Clarke. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you are not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Let me tell you about a show that I've been loving lately. It's called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by the incredible John Lee Dumas. It's available now on the HubSpot podcast network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. I'm a big fan of this podcast. It has energy, it has value, and it's all about learning about entrepreneurship. I was just listening to an episode the other day. JLD interviewed Jay Rogers, who was such a wealth of information. He kind of went into how entrepreneurship chooses you. You don't necessarily choose it, and that failure only happens when you stop trying to win. A lot of gems in this one, so I highly recommend checking out that particular episode along with the rest. So go listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts. Hey guys, if you listen to the Hustle Daily Show on Google Podcasts, we want to let you know that the option will no longer be available pretty soon. Google is sunsetting its podcast app sometime in early 2024 in favor of YouTube Music, and we want to give you a heads up before it's too late, since that time's almost here. The Hustle Daily Show is available everywhere and anywhere that you listen to podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're using YouTube Music, we are there as well. If you're an Android fan, there are plenty of apps like Overcast, Pocket Casts, Player FM, and more. So just search for us wherever you decide to listen to your favorite podcasts.